Hello, all.
Hi, Gary. Hello, Dennis O'Connell.
Danny, you're muted.
You're muted.
So do you want me to be muted?
Definitely not.
Hi, Danny.
My apologies. I thought we had it. We thought we had it arranged to start the meeting on time, but it didn't work out.
You did. That was my technical difficulties, and I
Oh.
apologize.
No problem, Rebecca. Thank you for all you do. All right. Hi, John. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us. Who is this? 609. I'll give it
I think
another.
that's Sharon Rule Egger.
It is.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hello.
Are you still on a dune shack, or are you back in your place?
No, I'm back in my place.
Excellent. And I was hoping that Bruce was going to join us, so I'm just going to give it one more minute before I start the meeting. John, do you have any comment on that?
Right back.
He was planning on being at this meeting, and I think Denny was too, so.
Yes, Danny is here.
Oh, Denny.
Hi, John.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Yep.
All right. Boy, I wonder if, oh,
Gary.
you know what? It's me, I think. I have to let people in. Where do I let people in?
Okay, I hear you.
I had to wait for you to start the meeting.
Yes, that was, oh, here's Bruce. Excellent. All right, so we will get started.
Gary,
Yeah.
I have to leave at 5, so if we are still doing things that require minute taking, I would request a volunteer to take notes and send them to me, and I'll incorporate them into the minutes.
Thank you. I think hopefully we won't be here at that hour, but
And Gary, I'm gonna run off
5, 6.
around 6:30, 4:30 to do turtles, so.
All right.
But I will pay attention up until then.
Thank you very much. And Bruce, thank you for joining us. I'll.
Yeah, sorry, I had trouble getting on. I don't know what the,
Bruce, the enemy is us. So it was us. But anyway, be that as it may, let us move forward from here. So this is the meeting of the Local Housing Partnership. It is being recorded. It is a Zoom meeting, and it is 4 o'clock on Thursday, September 30th. And we do have a quorum. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes of the August 19th meeting. I sent them to you. I'll give you a minute to take a look at them, and please let me know if you have any questions, but I entertain a motion when you are ready.
Gary, I wasn't here for that meeting, so I guess I can vote on them, right?
Technically, I think you can, or if you feel more comfortable,
I'd
you
rather,
can
yeah.
abstain. Yes. Okay.
Gary, did you send those minutes to my Verizon account or my Gmail account?
Geez, I don't know. I can check, but I may have sent it to the wrong one. Which
Right.
one, Sharon, just for
The
future reference?
Gmail is the only one that's working anymore.
Which one is it? I'm sorry.
Gmail.
Gmail. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. For a long
Okay.
time, they both worked and then Verizon just stopped, so.
Okay.
It's what they do.
All right. So would
That's pretty
someone like to make a motion regarding the minutes of the 18th? Anyone?
Sure.
Thank you, Karen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Judy. They have been moved and seconded, and we've noted the changes. Is there any other discussion? Right. All those are in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Very good.
I'm gonna abstain.
All right, one abstention. Any noes? Thank you very much. So the next item, and is the reason that we're being joined by Denny and Bruce, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but we had a conversation about, is there any common strategy or cooperation that we can pursue with either conservation or open space to look at either land acquisition or use of land that is already within that purview for affordable housing. So Denny and Bruce, if you would just take a minute to introduce yourselves, and then maybe we can chat a little bit about it. Denny? Denny, you're muted.
I'm mute.
Yeah, my machine just told me that, as well as you. So anyhow, I am the president of the Wellfleet Conservation Trust, which is a private institution. It's a trust, 501c3, and we operate outside of the bounds of the town and the open meeting law and all that, but we try to generally follow those sorts of things. We are across the entire town, and we are interested in conserving land, which would mean conserving the habitat, conserving the natural resources. If there are scenic views, we try to protect those. And scenic views are deemed to have some value. And then we also provide some passive recreation through the creation of trails. We work a lot with the Open Space Committee, which is a town board. And so I guess that's the segue into Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm Bruce Herter. I'm the chair of the Open Space Committee. And as Denny said, this is a town committee. We send a representative to your group, and that's John Grebe, who I understand has been to at least one of the meetings. I have been a member of your committee in the past, a representative from Open Space, so I'm aware of some of the issues.
Thank you very much to both of you. And thank you, Bruce, for your past service, and for John currently. So I think the first question I have is, if I understand, you both have land under your purview, under your control. And if that is the case, is there any piece of that land that we might look at acquiring for housing that isn't currently meet either of your charges?
To start with me, and then maybe Denny can say what he wants. The land, none of the land is actually under open space purview. We recommend that that land that we believe meets criteria for a number of things we're looking at. Is it area of critical environmental concern? Does it abut other properties? Is it a piece of land that may be marsh related, et cetera? And the properties that meet those criteria, we recommend that our town own, we recommend that the Conservation Commission take responsibility for them. So those pieces of land are actually in Conscom care. We also are a committee that were formed, though, to take a look at all of the land in Wellfleet and to the town-owned land, and to make decisions about or make recommendations about where that land might go. When I was part of the committee, we looked at a couple of different pieces, one being the Hall property, which is now being built on. I think the other was Howard Court. And really the thought was to have some sort of maybe 8 buildings or 8 units up there on top of the hill, and then to protect the rest. So it would be something that we were doing in concert. I remain very interested in that. And, we have CPC money that we're happy to use for those sorts of things. We also, and I'm hesitant to bring it up because it's not really been completely ironed out, but Brian Curley has asked Open Space to do an evaluation of town land again. Now, Ryan's primary focus, as I understand it, is to look at town land that may be encroached upon, that there may be some dumping and that sorts of thing. That's something that we do with the Conservation Commission for land that is under conservation. But it's something we would consider. It was really one of the reasons that our group was formed, that is to find land for conservation, but also to make decisions around town-owned property. So if that happens, and I say if, because we're sort of in the negotiating phase with that, that's a place where we could look. I in the past with Richard and Sharon, we went out and looked at a bunch of properties to try to see whether there might be some appropriate for the housing partnership. To start that process over again is something that I think would be within our purview and something we'd be able to do. The idea of taking land that's currently in conservation, if I heard you right though, Gary, is not something that it's not up to us. Number one, it's Conservation Commission. But number two, if it's in conservation currently, you can't, by definition, build housing on it and that sort of thing. But I think there are a lot of ways to work together to get land. And I also think that to use our money in a joint venture, that is the Open Space Committee money, is something we'd be very happy to do.
So Bruce, thank you very much for that. And certainly we continue to comb that list of town-owned land. But we would be happy to relook at it with you or respond to any examination that you have. I can tell you that we combed it down to, and Sharon may have a better feel, but anything in excess of an acre. And when you eliminate the transfer station land and 95 Lawrence, there isn't a lot that is town-owned, that is larger than that, that is developable, that can be developed.
That's not in the seashore.
That's not in the seashore. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Right.
So, all right. So let me give Denny a chance to
Okay.
talk. So
Let me-
Denny,
Let me comment on it that our land is in conservation and I gotta say it would be very difficult to try to put any housing on our land. We've got a few grants that would forbid that, but more it would be up to our board. And most of our land has been given to us, and most of it is not really buildable. But because it's been given to us, we would have a real credibility problem of putting a house on there, any kind of house. And so it'd be very difficult. Now, we did come to you a few years ago and try to do a joint venture on the Hall property.
right?
But we were both capital constrained and still are. And when we found that we would have to subsidize your participation in that land, it kind of died because our people are giving us money to do conservation activity, not housing activity. And so that died. But when we look at land, we look at the conservation values that are associated with it, looking at the water quality, looking at the habitat, looking at the natural resources. And a lot of what we're interested in, you can't build on. And so that makes it very difficult for us to do it. Now, we do have some land that is probably buildable, either by conservation restriction or by ownership. But we really haven't bought that land. Maybe somebody else has bought it and given it to us. And that's, I don't know what you do when a donor wants to give you for conservation purposes. You're kind of under a moral obligation to keep it that way. So
It would be interesting going forward to think about whether there would be a donor that would be interested in giving land for the dual purpose of conservation and housing. There's interesting models on both Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket that have done that with their conservation commission. So, you know, it's.
And I can tell you that when we start discussions with somebody, especially on a CR, we go through the process of saying, are you sure you don't want to put affordable housing here? And invariably the answer is they don't. We don't badmouth affordable housing by any means, and I never would, because I've got some in my neighborhood and they're fine. And it is one of the needs of the town. So it's very awkward to do something like that. But Gary, as far as giving up some of our existing land, I think that would be a tough haul. And I would.
Right, I appreciate that. But so let me say we can only go forward. We can't go back. So we can look at opportunities. We may have done X or Y, but I can tell you that the current state is this. Since we last, I think, chatted with either of you, the town has voted at town meeting to create the Affordable Housing Trust. And that's under now the leadership of Harry Turkanian. And the trust's main goal is to raise and manage money for the acquisition of land and development of affordable housing. We've also raised some money that we now have available to us for that purpose. And we've looked at additional ways to raise money to do that. So if there was a piece of land that you, either conservation or open space, were interested in acquiring for the town or your own, or for the Conservation Commission or Conservation Trust, that could be used for dual purpose, that would be something we would very much be interested in. The second thing I can tell you is that we are considering putting out an RFP, a request for proposal, to simply look at all of the, send it to the owners of all the available land in Wellfleet above, and if I remember correctly, above 3 acres, and see if there was any interest for the town to acquire that land. That's commercial land effectively. And so that would be something we would certainly be interested in doing in concert with your organizations or your groups.
Mhm.
Is that something that you're interested in participating in?
I can't speak for the full board, but you know those words. But you know, if there is a proposal that you want us to look at, we certainly would look at it.
Is there any or Bruce that you are now eyeing that you would like to get that might serve a dual purpose?
I'm not going to answer that, Gary, because we have confidential negotiations with landowners.
Right.
But as a principle, we certainly keep in mind your needs and our needs.
Okay. So I guess
the idea of expanding Wellfleet's capacity for more people is a tough one for us to get through.
right. We're trying to hold on to the peoples we got, to be honest.
That's a different issue.
Right. So I will tell you that, you know, one of the areas that we are particularly looking at this is what we would call workforce housing or community housing. So we've got a lot underway at the lower end with 95 Lawrence and some of our other efforts, but some of those for the average working person who is really in it with the acceleration of house prices is really in a tough spot right now. And we're trying to address that need. So Bruce, are there any properties that you are looking at?
We right now are just looking at what would be high priority properties for us. And those are properties that even if they were buildable would be right on the water would be, at risk because of tidal rise and that sort of thing, which I don't think would be great. And they're also small.
Right.
But even those, to be very frank with you, they are so expensive that it just doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't think, but the premise, the idea that we could work together and you use both our funding and your funding through CDC is something that I wholeheartedly support. When we're looking at town land, but if we find anything, we've softened a bit. The person who used to work with the real estate people is not doing that so actively anymore. But if you guys see something, and if we see something, unlike Denny, we're not constrained. We're not a private nonprofit. We're a town organization,
Mhm.
and we can work with you and find a deal. Like I say, both Hall and Howard Court, I thought were attempts, didn't work out, but to do that.
Right. They're actually looked now in the rear mirror as relatively reasonably priced. Compared to current
That
market.
used to be true.
What?
That used to be true.
Yes. Right. And of course, we don't know what it will look like a year from now. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Other people on the partnership have any questions or comments or any ideas about what we can do? So I would say, Danny and Bruce, keep your eyes out when you're out there and when you're listening for things. And I would say that we are receptive and we have more resources available to us than we have had in the past. So we may be able to really participate in some kind of an acquisition. And if there's something, a piece of land that you covered that would make sense for both of us, we could maybe make mutual calls. Any other comments or observations on your part, Annie or Bruce?
Well, I know that you've got a lot of constraints on you zoning wise and Board of Health wise. And those types of constraints are where we would like to protect those things. So there's a
Well,
little,
Danny, I think in the case of 95 Lawrence, both the expansion of the drinking water and the attempts to solve the wastewater issue are examples where housing and open space concerns coalesce.
I'm not sure I followed that, but
Yeah, I think we're more in agreement than we are in opposition. Is what I'm saying.
yeah, no, we're not in opposition. We've got Richard Ciotti on our board, and he's thinking of you all the time.
Right.
So
Okay. Anything else, Bruce or Danny?
No, I also agree. We're not in opposition, and like I say, there are a couple of projects that didn't work out, but I'm in favor of the concept, and
Sure.
We're not constrained in the same way Denny is. If we can find something that works together, we need to present it to town meeting. I think it's a great, it'll be easy sell may not be it, but to come up with a piece of land that we can build and also protect part of it is something I think would be a pretty easy sell at town meeting. So if we
Right.
can do it, I'd love to do it.
That'd be great. And I had one other question: is are either of you pursuing land swaps with this seashore?
no, we're not involved with that. So the Seashore has come to us in the past and said that they would like to see us acquire a parcel, actually receive a parcel, I should say, not acquire, because the person wanted to give it away for conservation purposes.
Right.
And the Seashore couldn't take it because of all the studies that they have to go through to acquire and the procedures that they have to go through. So they knew that we could accommodate what their goal was fairly quickly.
Did it work out, Danny?
Yeah, it did.
it's tricky from our point of view. What's happened is the Board of Selectmen, as you know, I'm sure there are some consideration of swaps going on right now.
Right.
Some of those go into executive session. It may be that we could be invited to those, but we haven't been. But it is something that I think is reasonable for us to get involved in.
Okay. Anything else for Danny or Bruce or any member of the committee? Well, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And as I say, it doesn't hurt to ask, and it won't happen if we don't look. And so if you come across something that happens to meet that profile, we're anxious to do something.
Yep.
Good. Thank you both.
All right.
Sure.
Take
Permission to leave?
Permission granted, Denny.
I may
Stay on.
listen to the next part if you don't mind, Gary.
No, please feel free to stay. Okay, so
Thank you. Cheers.
the next,
Thanks,
I-
Denny.
thank you, Denny.
Hi, Danny.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I forgot to mention that, take note of the fact that Elaine McElroy is with us, and Elaine is both the chair of the Housing Authority as well as the 95 Lawrence Task Force. And I noticed that the next item is the 95 Lawrence update. Elaine, do you want to give a quick summation of where we are?
Okay, I'd be happy to, although Gary, you are equally in the know about this, but we are just a few weeks away from being able to make a recommendation to the selectmen for a developer. We received 3 proposals, all really from highly experienced and successful companies. So we were really happy about that. We are evaluating them based on a 7-point criteria. And we're still in the process of finishing that up and waiting for a few more details. But we're excited and looking forward to this finally getting to the stage where the select board is the group that does hire, and that would then start some work on a land disposition agreement. And once that was signed, the developers have promised us they will reach out to the town, to all stakeholders, to all interested people. So that's really when, we can start to deal with the realities as opposed to the conceptuals, which we've been, dealing with for the past few years. Happy to answer any questions. We're still waiting to hear whether the town might receive a MassWorks grant for the wastewater system. I think sometime in October we'll hear about that. So as Gary mentioned, we have been successful in a MassWorks grant for the water system. And a lot of work trying to bring this development to town. We just, I don't know if you saw in the Independent, there was just a really good report that Eastham has conducted a new housing needs assessment, and points out just the really serious lack of any choice of housing, of anything but expensive single-family homes on large lots. We have no choices. So as Gary said, a lot of this effort is going to house the people that are already here, that are not securely housed, and to house the people we need to keep our businesses running. It's not thousands of people. It's really a healthy, small working community that we need to support. So that's my soapbox.
I was interested in the perception that building affordable housing will bring more people into town. That's maybe something that is a conversation that needs to be had around town, because that's clearly not our intention.
It is true, am I correct, that people will be able to apply from anywhere for 95 Lawrence Road.
Yes.
Right.
Right. There's a fair housing law in the country that
Right.
we have to follow. But as we can, the town can choose to request 70% local preference, meaning that 70% of the 46 units would go to people that live or work or have children in the school in Wellfleet. Province Landing, when that was opened 5 or more, maybe more than 5 years ago, they ended up with 99% people from Provincetown.
And presumably the town would want to do that, right? I mean,
I
can't think of
believe
a
so.
reason they wouldn't.
I believe so. I mean, when you consider a regional approach, when Eastham was doing Nauset Green, when they received some funding from both Orleans and Wellfleet CPA to help, they requested a lower local preference of 65% to enable the possibility that more people from neighboring towns would have a chance to get in. So that was a very, you know, kind of healthy regional look at the fact that all of our local towns are lacking in housing. And, you know, I've had many friends that have had to move all over the Cape. They want to come back to Wellfleet. So I think we have to open up our thoughts about that. I mean, 70% local preference is a pretty healthy percentage. And even the people that don't get in under the 70% go in to the 30% pool. So they have more than one chance. But I think we do have to think of that we have a regional need, and we'd like to support, you know, people from our neighboring communities too.
It would be nice to, I mean, it's also important, I think, to support inclusion
Right.
and diversity. You know, I know that's like more people, but if we say no, only people who live here, then we never get anything different than you know, almost entirely white population. So I like to see a little more diversity.
Yes, Jan.
Another point is when you're saying bringing more people into Wellfleet, well, I think what we're doing is right now is bringing in more seasonal people. I live on a very short, we're losing year-round people. I live on a very short dead-end street. And when we moved here year-round about 14 years ago, there were 6 families. Now we're down to 3 year-rounders.
Right.
So we're not necessarily bringing more people in. We're losing year-rounders.
And
Yeah,
could I-
and more people are coming in anyway, you know.
Right. But to that point, we thought we would have a significant increase in the school population, both from the added number of people coming as well as the people who were coming to escape COVID in other areas. And it just wasn't true that it wasn't young families or people with young children. And the increase has been really minimal in terms of the school population. And I think 95 Lawrence will have a significant impact on the school population and young families in our area that otherwise would have no opportunity to live here. But I think we're singing to the choir. I think we all agree. I think our job is to go out and sing to others, tell them that story. The only thing I wanted to add to what Elaine said was our target is to have a select board decision about the 3rd week in October, which means that we have to make our final decision by the middle of October or within 2 weeks. Excuse me, it's not a decision, it's a recommendation. So our goal is to complete our evaluation, and that includes a financial evaluation as well as you know, the aesthetics of one plan versus another, and to have that done in the next 2 weeks. So it's really imminent. So if anybody would like to tune into the next 95 Lawrence meeting, they're posted on the town website. Do we have a date yet, Elaine?
We'll figure that out tomorrow, I think.
Okay, so we are within 2 weeks of making a recommendation. So, you know, if you have an opinion or if you just want to listen in, watch the town website and tune into the next 95 Lawrence meeting.
Yeah, I'm,
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question about the process. So when you make a recommendation to the select board, do they see all the materials that you're seeing? And then, so, I mean, they have the opportunity to agree or disagree with you based on
Oh,
seeing all the
absolutely.
materials?
Oh, sure. Right now, all of the proposals that we have received are on the town website. So if you're
Okay.
interested, you can go on the town website, look up 95 Lawrence,
Okay.
and you'll see the 3
Okay.
proposals that we have for that. And then the other things that we have been doing, for instance, is as well as doing the references and the financial analysis, we have gone to site visits, multiple site visits for the people who have proposed, and as well as gone through a preliminary evaluation of the proposals. I mean, some of them are this thick and all of
Right.
them are complex. So
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I might mention too that we had 45-minute presentations from each of the 3 proposers, and they are on, you can view them on the town's YouTube channel. And I think they're really interesting. I've watched them a couple of times myself. But when we make our recommendation to the select board, we will have to give them our very thorough reasons, you know, why, kind of sifting everything
Right.
that we've done over this time. But and I would, Gary, I'm thinking, you know, they may have to get back to us with questions that, you know, that we'll hopefully have that recommendation on the night of the 26th that they're meeting, but I would assume they may
sure.
want to follow up with some questions and things like that.
Perfectly reasonable and perfectly within their purview. So, right, maybe it's premature for me to say that we'll decide on the 26th, but certainly it will be in the decision-making process. Yes, Judy.
I just want to say I have listened to some of those meetings and I give you people all the credit. Your patience and your, you know, the detail with which you've gone through. I'm in awe. You've done a terrific job. I could never sit through all of that. You've really,
You know, I should also
thank
mention,
you.
well, thank you very much, and that we have been by Rebecca Slick, who is our no longer new, but our assistant town administrator, and she's been an important part of this process.
Mhm. I want to say too, just of your last discussion, Bruce, the stuff that Gary or that Susan was talking about on the vineyard has been like a real feel-good thing for the communities out there when these 2 groups find a way to work together. It's been something that seems to have made the community very, very proud. So I'd love to see that happen.
No, I'm in favor, and as you're talking about Lawrence Road, we voted unanimously to support Lawrence Road, as I think you know, and so it's something that we're happy to be a part of. The land that's currently in conservation is in conservation, and you have to go to the legislature and get a vote from the Mass legislature to remove that. So I just don't think that's going to fly. But we're wholeheartedly support any new projects. And if there's land that we can purchase together, I think it's a win-win. I totally agree.
I think when you go through your evaluation of town-owned land, Bruce,
Yeah.
the one thing I would say is that we did talk with Hillary and with the former DPW director about the land adjacent to the
DPW.
yeah, well, not just the DPW, but adjacent to the transfer station.
Right.
And it seems like there are pieces of land that we might be able to carve out there, but take a look at it.
Right. There is also, and I forget what the reason was, but they weren't in favor. Right next to the DPW is a couple of acres.
Yes,
And it was
Right. You are right, that the so-called sand pit.
Well, not the sand pit, right next to, so the sand pit's across the street. But
Right.
right next, as you're facing the DPW to the right-hand side is a piece of property, about 2.2 acres, something like that. And, we had thought about, is that something that could meet both when we were, Richard and Sharon and I were driving around. There was some resistance to it, but if we're re-looking at everything, I would re-look at that one too.
Bruce, I would definitely encourage you, and I'll ask Elaine to comment too, but if I recall, there was some title issue.
Oh,
Believe
with
so.
that.
Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it can't be solved, but.
right.
Right, it would take some effort, yeah.
Okay.
Gary, this is
Yeah.
John Grebe. I need to take off for Lieutenant's
Well,
Island.
thank
so
you so much for your time today, John.
You're quite welcome. Thank you very much. This was helpful.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Okay, anything else on 95 Lawrence? So the next item is, I sent to you, and I apologize, Sharon, if you didn't get it, but I think you got it from the trust. The trust has made an appeal to the select board for them to designate 80% of the short-term rental tax to affordable housing. So to give you a sizing on that, last year, if I understood it correctly, there was about $700,000 generated by the short-term rental tax. So obviously 80%, if we had done that then, would have been about $500,000. So there's no reason to suspect that the FY23 or FY22 receipts won't be on the same order or higher. So we're talking about a significant amount of money, plus the fact that at town meeting, we voted to increase the tax from 4% to 6%. So even if it's only at the same level, it will still be more in FY23. So this would be a motion to support the trust request for designation of 80% of the short-term rental tax.
I so move.
Thank you, Judy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Thank you very much, Karen. If it's been moved and seconded, now I'd be happy to take discussion. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm a little conflicted about this because some people I think would like to see some of that money saved for wastewater issues. I don't know, 80% sounds kind of high. Can anybody help me out with this?
I think wastewater, two things. Wastewater can also make requests for that money, but they can also make requests for some other monies that aren't so much significantly. The short-term rental tax is a function, the affordable housing shortage is a function of short-term rentals. And so using the tax seems to us for housing an appropriate use. But certainly the wastewater folks can make their appeal, and they did make an appeal for some use of that money back when this was first broached in March, I believe it was, of this year. And honestly, Jan, if they had a specific need, let's just say for the wastewater treatment plant, this would be not saying all money for all time.
True.
Yeah.
That they could then come in and make an appeal for that money.
Okay, you got it.
Other questions or comments on the issue? If there aren't any, I'm going to call for the question. So all those in favor of supporting the trust request for the short-term rental tax signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Any negatives? Very good. Thank you so much, and we will note that at the next trust meeting. Okay, so the next item is the CPC housing needs list. So for all of you don't know, maybe new, is that each year the Community Preservation Committee has to go before the town and say these are the needs of the community in the 4 areas in which they specifically support: housing, open space, historic, and recreation. So this is generally done at a select board meeting in the December, January timeframe. So what we need to do is to look at that list and see if we want to make some changes. And Sharon, are you there? I think, oh, so Sharon, on that is to, did you notice the one about ADU?
Yes.
So I don't know if we can say check next to that and we want to move it to programs to support ADUs, or if you have some suggestion.
Well, I mean, I think I've heard pretty clearly that since ADUs are intended to be market rate, that, you know, we sort of have to look elsewhere for support for that.
Well, it doesn't mean that we can't support ADUs for affordable use or ADUs in for people who are at or below 80 or 100% of median income. There, I think there are certainly people who would do that.
Yes. No, I think that's true. So if we phrase it that way, then yes.
Okay.
You know, I think that's good.
Well, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun here. Looking at all of the lists above ADUs, does anyone have any issue with any of
Yeah.
those? I'm sorry?
I'm not seeing that list. I'm sorry.
Again, I
Was that in what you sent out?
It was in the same packet, so I apologize I haven't sent you, but I can send it to you right now. But be that as it may, the only one on there that I think that is meaningfully different from last year to this year, I'll just quickly say that. It says that we have to build 120 units to meet our 10% goal. It says support 95 Lawrence, Payne Hollow, Old Kings Highway, Freeman Ave, to look for money, to look for town-owned land and commercial land. And then the next one is, and I'll read it to you, work with the planning board to develop an accessory dwelling program. So I think,
Yeah.
whether you think we worked with them or in opposition, but be that as it may, it's a done deal. It's a done deal, so we can say check next to that. But the question is, how should we modify it now to support the ADU? What would you like it to say?
Well, you know, I have to tell you, I've been sort of like on a different channel. So,
Well, think about it.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And I would like to see what you wrote. So,
it's not what I wrote, it's what we submitted last year. This is last year's list.
oh, okay.
And just
Yeah, I just need to be refreshed, and I promise I'll get back onto the ADU, you know, support bandwagon, maybe by the end of October.
So,
My daughter's getting married next week, so I'm really.
Ah,
you know,
congratulations.
congratulations. That's very
No
exciting.
wonder you're,
Where are your priorities?
I
That's
get
right.
it. I get it now.
Okay.
It's very
So,
Wellfleet too, so it's
I
really
think
all
in the-
about all the house guests is the bigger
Right.
thing.
I know that Susan has to leave in a minute. So in the interest of submitting something where it says work with the planning board to develop accessory dwelling units, I could say develop programs to support the accessory dwelling unit bylaw.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Are people,
And that could include, you know, yes, we want to support the development of affordable ADUs.
right,
For sure, but I mean, that might be a form of financial support, whereas supporting market rate ones might be more in terms of guidebooks or help groups, you know, forming
Right.
help groups and a variety of different things along those lines.
right. So, okay, so if you accept that modification, everyone. Shall we have a motion to support the modified CPC needs list for now 2021?
So moved.
Yes,
Thank you, Jan. Is there a second?
second,
Second, thank you, Judy. So did you get that, Susan?
Yes.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye, very good. No noes, no abstentions. Excellent. So let us, in terms of things that, let me just mention, I know we have donations down there. Thanks to the terrific work of Susan Spear, we were notified that we have been given a donation of $10,000 support of affordable housing for.
Oh, nicely done. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so Susan, great job on that.
very good.
Should we tell them it could have been 50,000 or skip that part?
Come on,
No, skip it.
we're trying to end on a positive note here.
Well, wait, was there something we should have done to improve those?
This was the
No, this
implement.
was an individual donor. It's sort of interesting, and I don't mean to waste time, but
No.
who owns Bitcoins and would have given us a Bitcoin worth $50,000 if we could have figured out a way to use it legally. But we
Yeah.
weren't able to do that. So this is out of his personal funds that he donated
Ah,
10,000.
If any of you have expertise in Bitcoins, we could revisit this topic, but I will tell you that we made quite a few attempts to find a method to do it, and we just weren't successful.
I think we're all of the wrong generation.
Right.
Yeah, well, we elicited the help of some people who knew what they were doing. Certainly Gary and I were not those people.
All right. The only other thing I actually did want to tell you and talk about is that we have had a technical grant from Mass Housing Partnership to look at what should be our mission statement and goals. What should we be doing as this is in the ready, shoot, aim, as opposed to ready, aim, shoot. We could aim better. And they have offered a session for the housing partnership in particular. So, yeah, so this would be a discussion for us to look at what should we be doing? Really, what is our role and what is our most important activities or strategies that we should be pursuing? So I am not sure. Elaine, I'm blanking on her name right now, but
Shelley, Elena,
Shelley, thank you. Thank you.
Ellie Goring.
Shelley. It would be both Shelley and Elena, but Shelley is the person from Mass Housing Partnership. So is there a date? I'm going to say maybe not our October meeting, although that's a possibility. But maybe we could meet in December with that as a goal. So the focus of our meeting would be a discussion about where do you want us to be going? Where should we be going? Where do we think we best serve the town in terms of the role of the partnership? So is there a date in December, mid-December, before the holidays, maybe? Anybody not like Thursday, the 16th?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Plenty of time to plan ahead.
Yes, I think we can discuss that. All right.
and Gary, before then, can we distribute the sort of
Yes,
what
yes.
we've come up with so far?
Absolutely.
That'd be a good idea.
Good
Thank
idea.
you, Susan. All right, so this would be to meet on December 6th. I'm sorry, was it the 16th?
16th, you said.
16th. And you know, by then at 4 o'clock it will be darkish. Is that still good? Is that still a good time for people?
Yes.
Okay. So that I will let them know that that is our target date. We'll see if we can't work that out. Okay, so the last thing, I'm going to skip the other things unless someone has something they'd like to add. In the interest of ending in an hour, So the next meeting we would have would be October 21st at 4 o'clock. Does that work for everyone?
I won't be here.
Is doing it at a different time or?
No, I just won't be here.
Okay. You know what, Karen, if you're still in the country, I actually was away yesterday and actually participated by Zoom on my phone.
Okay.
And it actually amazingly worked pretty well.
Well, did you see the disaster I had the last time I tried to Zoom in with you?
I know, right. For what it's worth, it was a total failure on my iPad, but seemed to work on my phone. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave you guys.
All
Thanks
right.
a
Thank
lot.
you again, Susan.
Thank
Be
you.
well. But October 21st at 4 o'clock is our next meeting.
Okay.
Gary, were there any updates on any of the projects that we have going on?
The buy down people are looking for a house. We did complete and close on the other buy down. I haven't heard any update. Have you, Elaine?
For the current buy down? No, no.
I haven't
Can
heard.
I ask something?
Sure.
Judy Taylor, are you a relation to June Taylor? That lives at lived at 5 Indian Neck?
Distant.
Oh, okay. Everybody's at this. Well, she died and relatives are here fixing up the place. And I thought, oh, this might be great until I looked at the assessment. The assessment for this place is $499,000 and it's a little, but it's on the marsh. But, you know, I was like, oh, I should bring this up. And then I looked at the assessment and said, you know, so I don't know what they're getting it ready to sell. I believe some of the Berrios are involved with this place, are related to her because they kept some of their oyster work. If you know where it is, Jane. Yeah. But anyway, I thought it might work, but I guess if the assessment is $500,000, I can't even imagine what they're going to ask for the piece of property, and it needs work.
We can certainly.
Maybe you want it.
We can certainly suggest it to the person who is now looking. Is it 5? That's the address.
5 Indian Neck, yes.
I mean, you know what?
Gary, that lot next to me, they've been clearing it. So there's something going on that lot
Where is that?
on Coles Neck.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, we saw that when we drove by the other day.
Yeah,
So,
they've been working there for days clearing the trees.
right. And the only other update I can tell you, as far as I know, nothing has happened on Payne Hollow. Previously, we reported on Old Kings Highway. It has been postponed until April of 2022.
For now. Yeah.
The court hearing. So, and there's not a lot we can do on that. I can tell you that we are working on a RFP for Freeman Avenue. So hopefully that will be coming in the next, whatever. next month,
Can I just
month or two. Yes,
make
Sharon.
one? So someone, I don't remember who it was, mentioned to David just as a thought, because they knew that David was married to someone who like does housing. But her suggestion was, what about the little wave store? I mean, I don't know,
I'm sorry?
it might have underground tanks there or something, but it belongs to Cumbies, and maybe Cumbies could buy themselves a little community goodwill.
You're talking about,
They had to take those tanks out. They had to
Yeah.
remove those tanks.
Good.
you're talking about the store opposite
Across the street.
Cumberland Farms.
Mhm. I mean, there's several residences right along there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there-
Yeah, I
Anyway.
noticed that they're also working hard at work at that parking lot for the bikes. So
ugh, ugh, ugh.
I thought they said they weren't going to be working on that, but
Yeah,
they
that's
are.
what they said.
anyway, that's interesting. We can bring up About what number on Route 6 would that be?
Ugh.
Well, it's right
I
on.
I can look it up, but I
It's
just,
right near Pine Point Road, right?
Yeah.
right, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a look.
Yeah, no stone unturned.
That's exactly right. We don't know where the solutions may be. Okay. Anything else that anyone would like to raise?
I just want to say it was nice to see you all.
Nice to see you as well.
Likewise.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn, but thank you all so much for everything that you're doing and for being here today.
Quick question, Gary. I took some
Okay.
notes about what we just discussed. Do you want me to send those to Susan Spear?
Couldn't hurt.
Okay,
So that'd be great, Jan, if that's.
okay, and I move that we adjourn.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Second.
We declare this by acclamation, so thank you all for your time today and stay healthy.
Okay, take care.
Second.
Bye-bye.
I'm gonna-
Good to see
Bye-bye.
everybody.
I'm going to stop the recording.